Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Yes, okay,
Yes.
great. This is Anita Howry tuning into the meeting.
Yes. Which case are you here for?
I'm here for the City of Tucson hearing about the PAD
Oh,
proposal at the
yeah.
Sam Hughes neighborhood.
Yes. And are you calling in on the phone?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So we have up on the screen the meeting the is going to be the hearing for the villages at Sam Hughes. The PAD is going to be rescheduled to a later date. Um, and so the hearing and that when will be rescheduled, it's going to be renoticed and everything. But there is no hearing for for this case tonight. The applicant wants to reschedule.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I appreciate your information, and you have a wonderful night.
You too. Thank you for participating.
Thank you. Bye.
Hello?
Yes, hello?
Oh, hi. Is this John Beal?
Yes, it is.
Hi, John Beal. My name's Pete Jorgensen. I was uh, going to watch the Sam Hughes pad,
Oh, yes.
but I hear that's been rescheduled. But I'm also curious about the Speedway in Rosemont. Will I be could I have property right there? I was wondering if there's any way I can watch that.
Well, yeah, sure. You can stay on. It's a public hearing.
Okay, so what do I do? Just unmute and just wait till 6 o'clock?
Yeah, that is correct.
Okay. Uh, so right now it just says the City of Tucson logo, and that'll change at 6, I assume?
Yes, that's correct. The zoning examiner will open up the public hearing and then just proceed as usual on that. You just have your microphone mute and just listen in. And if you have any comments, you can always raise a hand when he opens it up to the public hearing.
Okay, do you know what that is all about, the Speedway Rosemont?
Uh, it's going to be a commercial, it's rezoning, and it will be going up probably to a probably a drive-through service or a um
Like a fast food restaurant?
right or a auto repair.
Oh,
So,
okay,
but he'll
okay,
be it'll be all introduced. Staff will make a presentation, and then the applicant will make a presentation too.
okay, great. Well, thank you very much, and I'll unmute my,
Or mute.
I mean, I'll mute
Mute,
my
yeah.
microphone and wait for the start.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Beal? Mr. Beal,
Yes, Mr. Urino,
how are you this evening?
pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm well. I'm
Good.
thanking you very much for all of your assistance this week and last week and for the last 6 years, actually.
You're
So I'm on camera, obviously. The site is working. We're ready to go at 6 o'clock.
That's correct.
Okay, well, I'm going to, since it's 6 o'clock, I'm going to start. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's public hearing. My name is John Urino. I'm the zoning examiner for the city of Tucson. I want to start by saying that if anyone in the audience is here for the Village at Sam Hughes rezoning case, that case has been continued. It will not be heard tonight. We're going to go ahead tonight with the other case on the docket. That's case TP ENT 424. Help me out with the number, John.
00009.
Perfect. Speedway Rosemont. Thank you, Mr. Slater. I appreciate it. So, to the audience, I conduct rezoning hearings on behalf of the mayor and council and make findings of fact, which I put into a written report along with my recommendation, which I then send along to the mayor and council for their consideration and their final decision. My report will be based on the information submitted to me, which includes the rezoning application, the staff report, all written approvals and protests, all correspondence, and the testimony given at tonight's public hearing. I will also include in the record all documents submitted to me up to the close of the public hearing. Tonight's proceedings are being recorded. With that in mind, if you choose to testify, when you're called on to testify, we would ask that you start by stating your name and your address, and also try to speak clearly. I do the best I can on that one. Here's the process following tonight's public hearing. First, I complete a preliminary report within 5 working days after the close of the public hearing. Then I prepare a final report. The final report will be issued 2 weeks after the close of the public hearing. For those of you who wish to receive a copy of the preliminary report and are not a listed party on the case, please send an email to tucsonrezoning@tucsonaz.gov. Again, tucsonrezoning@tucsonaz.gov, or call the Planning and Development Services Department. A copy of the final report will be available from the Planning and Development Services Department, and I send the final report to the mayor and council. At the scheduled public hearing on the case, The mayor and council will then vote on the matter based on my recommendation along with other factors. Tonight, we'll proceed in the following manner. I will open the public hearing and ask Mr. Gabriel Slater to present the staff report. Following Mr. Slater's, is that correct, Gabriel?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. Following Mr. Slater's report, I will ask the applicant to give his or her presentation. I will then ask to hear from anyone in the audience who wishes to speak. Following that, I will give the applicant the opportunity to respond to any of the concerns raised. Because I can have no contact with anyone outside of this public hearing, if you want to speak tonight, I encourage you to do so. Well, with that, those ground rules out of the way, I've already called the case. Mr. Slater, would you like to go ahead and present the staff report, sir?
Sure thing.
Thank you.
So this is a request by Lazarus and Sylvan to rezone about 0.7 acres of property. It's at the southwest corner of Speedway and Rosemont. It's currently split zone between C2 and R2. And the applicant proposes to consolidate the two parcels and then rezone the southern portion of C2 to allow for commercial use across the entire site. It's at 5050 East Speedway Boulevard. Speedway is identified as an arterial route, and Rosemont is the north-south street, and it's identified as a collector. So the site is governed by Plan Tucson and the Broadway Craycroft area plan as part of the mixed-use corridors building block for Plan Tucson, which encourages higher intensity of jobs and services and housing. The Broadway Craycroft area plan encourages non-residential development near existing non-residential development. And this is it's on Speedway. So there's commercial to the east and then commercial to the west. There is residential development to the south and to the southern end of the parcel on First Street. Immediately to the west, there is a single family residence on a parcel there as well. The applicant has prepared two preliminary development plans, one for food service, one for auto repair. The buildings in both, their placement is constrained by the location of the intersection and how far they can move that driveway access. And so in both concepts, the building is to the northeast of the property. They've configured the site as best as possible to minimize any impacts to nearby residential. So in the food service example, they've got the trash enclosure set up to shield the drive-through speaker, and the drive-through lane is facing Rosemont instead of on the west side. And in the auto shop example or proposal, they've moved the building as far to the north and east as possible to limit the to put some more distance between it and the residential neighborhood further inside the block. Access is from Speedway and Rosemont. Again, the Speedway access limits building location because of that. It hampers the opportunities to move the driveway around. The proposed rezoning is consistent with and supported by the policy direction provided in Plan Tucson. It's also compliant with the Broadway Craycroft area plan. Subject to compliance with attached preliminary conditions, approval of the requested zoning is appropriate. We had one protest outside of the 150-foot area, but within the 400-foot notice area. And we received a total of 3 approvals. One approval was a gentleman on Speedway who owns 3 parcels nearby. It was counted as one. The other approval across Speedway to the west a little bit. We received another written approval today from a gentleman in the area.
Thank you very much, Mr. Slater. Ms. Sylvan, before I call on you, I want to announce again to the audience that the Village at Sam Hughes rezoning case will not be heard tonight. It will not be heard tonight. Planning and Development Services is in the process of rescheduling that hearing. And once it's rescheduled, that new date will be on the Planning and Development Services website. But so if anyone who's here on any case is welcome to listen and participate. But I just wanted to make sure everyone knew who's present now that the Village at Sam Hughes rezoning case will not be heard tonight. Ms. Sylvan, On this case, would you like to be heard?
Yes, can you
Thank
hear
you.
me okay?
I can, thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna share my screen, so bear with me. I'm Carrie Sylvan with Lazarus and Sylvan, representing Larson Baker, who now owns this property. And I will. Sorry, hang on just a second. By the way, my mumbling was that I hate the computer when I said I hate this thing, not the project. My address 5983 East Grant Road for the record. With me tonight in our conference room as well as Melissa Lau and Ted Herman from Larson Baker and Robin Large and Jackson Cassidy from my office. As staff has done a great job explaining, we're talking about and proposing a redevelopment at the southwest corner of Speedway and Rosemont. You can see it in the blue. It's currently the Bambi Bar, and the rest of the property is vacant. There is a food truck that is sometimes, if not all the time, there. This really is an infill and underutilized property. The current owner and the bar operator reached out to Larson Baker about purchasing the property and let Larson Baker know that they would be closing the bar relatively soon and desire to sell the property and have it become a more useful piece, I think, for the area. This just shows you some of the existing conditions. The family had felt that they had exhausted the useful life of the building and the bar. Larson Baker closed on the property end of March, early April, and actually decided to find an operator and transferred the liquor license so that it could continue operating as opposed to having a vacant building in this area, which at the neighborhood meeting was expressed prior to closing, but with the plan that Larson Baker was going to do that, and that was received positively. Vacant buildings have lots of unintended consequences, so that was very much appreciated by the neighbors. Current zoning on the property: on the north it's C2, on the south it's R2. It's along Speedway, as staff mentioned. This is an area that is, has different blocks transition differently from the commercial on the north to either mid block or to the next street to residential. Rosemont on the east and First on the south. The Broadway Craycroft area plan is the planning document that applies to the area, and it acknowledges, you can see up in the right-hand corner, this area and this property even to the south as an appropriate transition piece and the potential for commercial uses on the property to transition actually at First. The policy does require acknowledging transitions to the neighborhood and making sure that buffers and everything is taken care of as those transitions occur. And we have tried to do that in our site plans. I want to mention a few of the site constraints. Mr. Slater mentioned some of them. It's an odd shaped, it's narrow, it's long. We have limited access options, as in we only have one option on Speedway, and you'll see it on the site plan, having worked with DTM on the property. There's currently one access on Speedway. That's the access we're going to be using. There are actually 3 access points on Rosemont. We're consolidating down to 1, and we've tried to design the site to have people use Speedway as much as possible. We do need to access Rosemont. The trash circulation and overall circulation does require a second access because of the shape of the site. We have made a commitment in all of our plans. We will not be accessing on First. There are currently 2 curb cuts on First that allow access in that direction, and we will not be permitting that as it moves forward. So I want to show you the couple of site plans. At the end of the day, Larson Baker was having trouble marketing this without the right zoning on half of it. So in taking a look at the uses, the request is for C2, so it's the same zoning as adjacent to Speedway. really, there are only a couple of uses that could fit on the property, which is the food service and the automobile. There are some other C2 uses. We explored some of those with the neighbors, and it was acknowledged that those were, they couldn't fit on the site, like an Ace Hardware, which you probably saw in the neighborhood summary. So this is the restaurant. All of our buildings that we're proposing are 20 feet in height. We're comfortable with that condition. The setback over on the west required by code would be 30 feet. Both of these site plans show significantly more, in large part because of where the access has to be, which is pretty much where the Bambi building is, because we needed some spacing to Rosemont. The west border, we're going to have, as you can see, significantly more landscaping than exists on the site, which is not a difficult bar to reach since there's none currently, but it will meet code on the site, and particularly over on the west, where we're adjacent to the R2 piece. There will be a 6-foot wall, as well as the 10-foot landscaping that ends up accommodating about 10 canopy trees. On the south along First, there'll be a 5-foot screen. It can be a landscape screen, but again, there will be screening on First, and we will not be having any access in that area. 23 parking spaces are required, and I think we actually exceed that just on this plan. We did design the drive-through, as you can see, so that the ordering and the food window is actually not facing to the south. And we have the cars coming out right at the Speedway exit, and that the goal there, again, is to try and get people to use Speedway, and Rosemont hopefully becomes, and the way we've designed it, it's a secondary entrance. The second is the minor automotive use. Again, the drive is where it is. We couldn't move it. This was one where we had some discussions with staff about putting the drive closer to Rosemont and flipping the building. We can't do that because it gets too close to Rosemont. And again, we're designing this. We have the ability to go out onto Rosemont, but we really want to make sure the traffic makes more sense to head north onto Speedway. Similar landscaping and setbacks. You can see that on the right-hand side of the slide. I don't need to go over those again, but I can if there's any questions. Neighborhood outreach, we had our neighborhood meeting on March 13th. The notice went out on February 28th. I think we had a couple people call to ask some questions. The Ward 6 office was at the Ward 6 office, and they were in attendance. It was good attendance, good questions. Overall, our sense was there was support for the redevelopment. There were some concerns about traffic on Rosemont, and acknowledgement that we were consolidating 3 access points down to 1. Obviously more traffic than exists there now. Some happiness that it's not going to be a 24-hour use anymore. Some nostalgia for sure for the Bambi bar from some folks. But overall, an acknowledgement that this is right for redevelopment and will create a better edge condition certainly than exists today. With that, we would respectfully request a recommendation to approve, and I'm happy to answer any questions now or after the public hearing.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sylvan. I want to ask whether anyone else in the audience would like to be heard on this case, the Rosemont Speedway rezoning. Again, I want to announce for anyone who joined us late that the village at Sam Hughes, I'll say it one last time correctly, I hope. The village at Sam Hughes rezoning case will not be heard tonight. Planning and Development Services Department is in the process of rescheduling that. And the new hearing date will be posted on the website. So with that, would anyone in the audience like to be heard on this case, the Speedway and Rosemont rezoning? If so, just speak up, raise your hand. We'll call on you. We'll get it done. Thank you. I hear no one. I see no hands being raised. I'm going to wait one more minute just to make sure. If anyone wishes to be heard, we invite your participation. Well, we have no takers, so,
Oh.
go ahead, sir, so, go ahead, sir,
Okay.
sorry, go ahead.
Pete Jorgensen, and
Yes.
I am curious what the hours are if it would be a drive-through eating establishment.
Ms. Sylvan, would you address Mr. Jorgensen's question, please?
Yes, Mr. Urino, Mr. Jorgensen, we don't know what the food service would be, so we don't know what the hours would be. Obviously, if it's a breakfast establishment, it would be different than if it's a lunch and dinner. So, we don't, this is one of those, a little bit of the, well, I'll call it the chicken and the egg. We don't have the end user. We can't really market for the end user until we know the zoning on the property. So we don't have, I can't, I can't answer that question because we don't have the end user yet.
Thank
That's
you.
fair.
Mr. Jorgensen, anything else, sir?
No, I was just curious, it was going to be a 24-hour establishment or, you know, whatever, you know, 5
Understood.
to 2 or whatever. So,
Understood.
but fair answer.
Okay, well,
Thank
thank you
you.
very much. Go ahead, sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you for participation tonight. It's,
I have a question.
yes, sir, please start with your name
Yes,
and
sir.
address, sir.
Doug Schneider. We own property on First Street, right east of Rosemont. I was wondering how this is going to affect our property west of Rosemont.
Ms. Sylvan?
Hello?
Yep.
Yes, we can hear you.
Sorry, it took me a minute to unmute. I apologize. Good question. We're all of the, as I think I mentioned, and I see you're on the phone. I'm not sure if you could see the site plans, Mr. Schneider, but we are not permitting access onto First. So there's currently, if you go by the property, there's currently 2 curb cuts where people could come straight out onto First. So the access is entirely, we're trying to encourage in our site planning that it go north to Speedway. There will be one access point because we have to, out to Rosemont. But we don't expect that unless you live on First and need to go that direction, we are not encouraging any traffic and actually, I think, creating a better situation than what exists today on First.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schneider. Would anyone else in the audience like to be heard?
I would.
Yeah,
Yes, please go ahead and start with your name and address, please.
Dawn Ferguson. And I'm on Duffy Place. I'm about 2 blocks south of this parcel. I am all for it. Cleaning up Speedway and, you know, the business aspect along there can do nothing but improve what's already there. And as a resident since 1962, we can really stand some upgrades in that. And I think this will do it. I think they have really thought this through, and it will be a benefit for the neighborhood.
Thank you very much for your participation, Ms. Ferguson. Appreciate it.
Thank
I
you.
see a hand up on the phone, Janet Baker. Ms. Baker, would you start with your name, which I just said, and your address, and then go right ahead, please?
yes, you can hear me, right?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, yeah, this is Janet Baker. I'm at 5252 East Rosewood, which is a couple of blocks east of the location. And yeah, I just really wanted to endorse this whole thing because I think that we could really benefit from a useful service, something. And it really sounds from the plans like it's going to be attractive, which Speedway needs really desperately, I think, because, you know, I think it's just like raising the bar to have something nice there. And, you know, besides that, no one's ever going to build a house on that residential spot. I mean, that's my feeling. No one would want to have a house back to back with a business. And you know, I just drove by there about 3:30 and it's already being used as a parking lot. And it's never going to change. I mean, that will change, but in a nice way. So yeah, I think it's a great idea. I think it's, you know, high time that we had something really, really really nice there.
Thank you very much for your participation, Ms. Baker.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you. Would anyone else in the audience like to be heard on this case?
So they're gonna build something there, zone it for something nice.
Sir, I see you're talking, but speak up a little louder so we can hear you a little better, or at least me.
Is the Bambi Bar going away? Doug Schneider again.
Ms. Sylvan, the question is the Bambi Bar going away?
Oh, thank you. I couldn't hear the question. Mr. Schneider, yeah, for right now, while we're in this process, Larson Baker has found an operator to continue so that it's not a vacant building. But yes, as part of the redevelopment, it will be going away.
Okay. I didn't mean for you to hear me. I don't know how to mute the phone, so.
Well, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry about that. Well, it happened. So is anyone else in the audience wishing to be heard on this case, the Speedway and Rosemont rezoning case?
Yeah, actually, can I speak in real quick?
Of course you can, Mr. Reed Young. Go ahead with your name, which I just said, and your address, and then go right ahead.
Yeah, my name is Reed. I am at 5055 East Speedway. So we're right there on the Speedway and Rosemont corner across the street from the Bambi Bar. And I'm the CEO and founder of Fangamer. And I apologize if Charlie already spoke up on this, but I just wanted to note that you know, Larson Baker actually is the group that sold the building, you know, the former Copper Country building to us. And they were wonderful. They were instrumental in everything that we've been able to do since then, you know, with the space and, you know, just all the work that we've done. And so I just wanted to speak up in support of them and whatever plans they might have for this space. You know, I've been able to look at some of the plans they've shared, and everything looks like an improvement. You know, the only concern I have is I hope the hot dog guy, you know, is able to figure out a place to land nearby, because I love his hot dogs. But yeah, I just wanted to speak up and say that I certainly want to throw my support in.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Would anyone else in the audience like to be heard? Would anyone else in the audience like to be heard? Well, I can tell you, Ms. Sylvan, I'm pulling for the hot dog guy too in the meantime. But as for the zoning case tonight, I'm closing the hearing. And I want to thank everyone for their participation. I want to wish everyone a safe and lovely evening. Good night, all.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.